Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I'm really glad you're here with us today because we are going to tackle something that is literally keeping so many young men and couples in general up at night. I'm talking about the immense, crushing financial pressure of modern weddings. As a guy who talks to a lot of young brothers in the community, I see this stress firsthand. It's massive. But today, we're taking a step back from the culture and we're diving straight into classical Islamic tradition to see what the Hanafi school actually says about all this.
I mean, let's just be real for a second. Are expensive weddings delaying marriage? Absolutely. We live in a world where designer aesthetics and, 20,000-pound events act as these gigantic roadblocks to young people who just want to start their lives together. What's supposed to be this beautiful, accessible milestone is getting pushed back years simply because guys are expected to save up a small fortune just to get their foot in the door. It's a genuine crisis. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll be looking at the modern wedding crisis, Mahr as the wife's right, finding balance in that Mahr, the Walimah or wedding feast, and finally prioritizing the sunnah over social status. Let's jump right into part 1, the modern wedding crisis.
The second caliph, Umar ibn al-Khattab, actually warned us about this exact thing a long time ago. He said, "Do not go to extremes in giving women their dower, for if it represented honor in this world and piety in God's sight, the one of you most entitled to do so would have been God's prophet." Think about that. I say this out of genuine brotherly concern. Extreme spending does not equal honor. It doesn't equal piety. Throwing tons of money at a wedding hall doesn't automatically make you a better husband or bring barakah to your marriage. Actually, turning a sacred union into a massive status competition is highly blameworthy.
Moving on to part 2, Mahr, the wife's right. Okay, let's clear up some common misconceptions here. In Hanafi fiqh, the mahr is the obligatory financial right owned completely by the wife. It's an enforceable absolute right. So it's not a payment for the woman, right? And it's definitely not a bride's price paid to her parents so they can flex to the extended family. It's also not just a nice symbolic gesture. Even if you rush a marriage contract and totally forget to mention a mahr, the nikah is valid, but the husband is still completely financially on the hook to give her one. It is her exclusive property. There's this incredibly beautiful hadith about a guy who really wanted to get married, but literally had nothing, not even a spare piece of clothing. The Prophet, peace be upon him, told him to try and find something, even an iron ring. And when the man couldn't even manage that, the Prophet let him marry by teaching the chapters of the Quran he had memorized to his new bride. This lays down such a profound rule. Poverty should never block a righteous person from getting married. The sunnah is all about simplicity and practicality, not impossible luxury expectations. But we do need to look at how classical scholars apply this today. The relied upon Hanafi opinion is that mahr should normally be something with actual tangible financial value. Now, while purely non-material things like teaching the Quran were accepted in the Prophet's specific time, modern Hanafi application prefers physical assets. Why? To actually protect the wife. So the whole romantic, "my love is your mahr" line, yeah, that's Islamically problematic because love isn't an enforceable financial right. Instead, we're talking cash, gold, maybe paying her university tuition or even buying a laptop for her studies. Those are practical things that genuinely honor and protect her.
All right, section 3, finding balance in the harf.
500 dirhams. That's roughly what the Prophet, peace be upon him, gave his wives as their dower. Now, that amount was highly respectable, it was honorable, but crucially, it was manageable. It wasn't some insultingly tiny amount, but it also wasn't a 50,000-pound demand that forces a guy to take out a high-interest bank loan. It was the perfect middle ground. And that's exactly the sweet spot the Hanafi scholars want us to aim for.
So how does this actually play out in the real world? Imagine a modern couple does a quick online nikah, right? And they don't specify a mahr amount. If a dispute pops up later, how does a Hanafi mufti figure out what she's owed? Well, they calculate what's called mahr al-mith, the standard dower. It's super interesting. They look at what her sisters or paternal cousins received. They factor in her education level, her age, her social background, her city. It's a whole formula to ensure she gets a fair standard amount based on her actual social standing so she doesn't get shortchanged.
Let's just compare two totally different realities we see today. Think about family A. They go for a simple nikah, a completely affordable mahr, and the couple gets a peaceful start to their lives with zero debt. Beautiful, right? Then you have family B. They borrow money to run out a luxury haul. They get caught up in this whole social media competition, and they start their marriage buried under years of repayment. The Hanafi spirit so clearly and forcefully backs family A. We really have to stop turning our marriages into humiliating financial competitions.
Moving into Section 4, Walimah, the wedding feast.
So what exactly is the Walimah? In Hanafi fiqh, it's the public meal and announcement right after the marriage, and it's an emphasized sunnah. But here's the thing. Its purpose is absolutely not to flex your bank account to the community. The real, beautiful purpose is to publicly announce the union, express gratitude to Allah for the blessing of marriage, and bring the community together by sharing a meal. That's it.
When the companion Abd al-Rahman ibn Auf got married, the Prophet, peace be upon him, told him, hold a wedding feast, even if only with a sheep. The big takeaway here is that yes, holding a feast is highly, highly recommended, but it is strictly scaled to what you can actually afford. It's based on your reality, not on whatever crazy standard your culture is pushing. Listen, not everyone needs to host a 500-guest destination wedding. And if you want the ultimate proof of simplicity, just look at the menus from the Prophet's own weddings. We're talking dates, barley, clarified butter, and dried curd. Notice anything missing? Yeah, there's no $10,000 fondant cake or a bespoke sushi bar. For his marriage to Safiya, they literally just spread out some leather cloths and put out dates, curd, and butter. This completely shatters the modern myth that you need a 5-course banquet for a valid, blessed wedding. The true blessing is in the gathering itself, not the catering bill.
Now, this next quote is heavy.
The Prophet, peace be upon him, gave this really sharp warning. He said, the worst kind of food is that at a wedding feast to which the rich are invited and from which the poor are left out. Just think about the elitism we see today. You know, those VIP-only influencer weddings where poor relatives or everyday community members are deliberately excluded just because they don't fit the right aesthetic. Islamic ethics completely and utterly condemn that kind of classism.
Which brings us to our final section, sunnah over status. Instagram displays, TikTok aesthetics, status signaling, constantly comparing luxuries. Let's be honest, today's wedding industry is basically fueled by rivalry and showing off. There are several hadiths that explicitly call out this kind of social competition. It goes against everything the Hanafi school teaches about sincerity. Classical texts urge us to chase barakah, that spiritual blessing, over putting on a performance, and to prioritize long-term stability over one-night display. Once a wedding just becomes a massive photo shoot for social media, we've completely lost the plot.
Quick side note on guest etiquette, too. Islam is huge on manners and boundaries. The rule is simple. Do not enter a wedding without an invitation. The Prophet actually said someone who shows up uninvited enters as a thief. In our hyper-connected world, this is a great reminder. Crashing weddings or showing up just because everyone's going or intrusively live streaming the event on your phone, that all violates the sacred privacy of the couple. We've got to respect their boundaries. So it all boils down to a pretty clear choice. On one hand, you have a sunnah-oriented approach, maybe booking a humble mosque hall, setting up simple catering, and having a warm, inclusive gathering. On the other hand, cultural excess, crippling debt, mountains of wasted food, and just showing off for likes online. The classical sources leave no room for doubt here. An honorable marriage puts faith and character way above wealth and appearances. To wrap up the core takeaway of this explainer, the classical Hanafi framework insists that marriage must be accessible, it must be honorable, financially responsible, and deeply spiritually focused. The Mahr needs to be real and fair, absolutely protecting the wife's rights, but simultaneously, this framework forcefully pushes back against the toxic debt culture that is just crushing young guys today. It's a truly brilliant, divinely inspired balance. I want to leave you with this one provocative question. Are we honoring the sunnah, or are we just funding a performance? Really think about that. I challenge you to look at how you or your local community approach getting married. Are we making the halal easy, or are we making it almost impossible? Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. Stay curious, keep learning, and I will catch you in the next one.